So today I'm going to discuss how much money you can make working in Big Pharma. I get this question a lot from people, so I'm going to address it. Now, remember, I've talked previously about function within the pharmaceutical industry known as medical affairs. Now, medical affairs houses a very famous function called the medical science liaison or the field medical team. The medical science liaisons, you'll remember from my other videos, they're the people that have advanced degrees. They have MDs, they have PhDs, they have PharmDs, meaning they're a doctor of pharmacy, and they go out and they educate these top-notch physicians that we call key opinion leaders or key decision makers or external experts, depending on who you are. Now, in this video here, we see a physician who I guess apparently worked in the pharmaceutical industry, and he's being asked how much he makes. Let's take a look at what he says.
How much money did you make working for Big Pharma?
My initial packet was like a $300,000 base salary with
So $300,000 base salary working in the pharmaceutical industry. Is that realistic? Is that reasonable? And I would say that it's a little bit high, depending on the role that he might have had. Typically, people that are physicians that go work in the pharmaceutical industry at a director level, they might make around 200, 250. Maybe if they're specialists or surgeons, they might make in the $300,000 range. So I think a little bit higher than what I've seen in the industry. But in addition to that, they get, of course, stock options and bonus. Let's hear what he has to say there.
about a $60,000 bonus built into it and stock options as well. My whole package together was about $700,000. This was a director level position. The next step up would have been a senior director position, and I would have been pushing like 750. The next step after that, easily making $1 million.
Now, I can tell you from my experience in leading medical affairs, and I had physicians working on my team, we never had anybody that was making $1 million total package. Now, remember, if you have a stock options package and the stock is worth a lot of money, certainly if he's considering that, that could be, depending on the company, that could be a considerable component of your overall compensation. But that's usually smaller biotech companies that kind of make it big. If you go to a big pharma company, the stock doesn't move too much to the point where it's going to be a big contributor to your overall compensation. So that's what I've seen. Now, for other positions, usually like let's say a medical science liaison type of position, if you're a physician and you're working as an MSL or a medical science liaison, you're probably going to be starting maybe at around $150,000, $175,000 plus, of course, the things that he mentioned, the bonus, the stock options, etc. You might get a company car. For pharmacists and PhDs, they might be paid a little bit less. Again, it depends on the experience that you have. So there is a little bit of a pecking order. I will definitely admit that, where MDs are at the top. But it also depends what kind of MD you are. If you're an MD and you went to a school in the Caribbean or overseas, you might not be as valued as much as if you were an MD, let's say, that went to a U.S. medical school and you had clinical experience, right? That's really important. So they're looking for people that have ideally patient experience, working as a physician where you've treated, diagnosed patients, you've prescribed medications, you've done procedures. That's always more valuable because you can bring a lot more insight and knowledge to the role versus if you just kind of came out of medical school and you wanted to be a medical science liaison. So I always advise people, if you're going to work in the pharmaceutical industry, it's advisable to ideally try to get some type of clinical experience, even as just for a year early on. I think for PhDs, it isn't maybe as important because for PhDs, we're typically working in a research lab, and that may or not be as relevant for people that want to work in industry. Let's hear what he has to say about, why he left.
I actually make much less now than I used to working in pharma.
Why did you quit Big Pharma?
I had to make a lot of compromises on who I was to be there. You're kind of dishonest.
So, I hear this a lot, and I'm sure you guys hear this sentiment a lot, this whole idea of, I had to make compromises, and, people are referring to ethical compromises. I had to compromise my ethics, my morals, because I work in the pharmaceutical industry. And I can tell you from my experience working for over 15 years in the industry, I think this is overrated. I think this is sometimes exaggerated. Look, for the most part, people that work in the pharmaceutical industry, for the most part, they are trying to do the right thing. It's that, if you're a physician and you're working in the pharmaceutical industry within medical affairs, within clinical development, let's say, or clinical research, you're still helping patients. You're just doing it in a different way. So there's a lot of benefits and a lot of really positive things you can do to impact patients' quality of life. It's just in a different way when you work in the pharmaceutical industry. That doesn't mean that pharmaceutical companies are not, for-profit companies. They're for-profit companies, and so obviously they're there to make money, and they're there to grow, and they have a fiduciary responsibility to their stakeholders. But I think this whole idea of, I have to compromise my morals and ethics, and I don't know, maybe in his case he did. Maybe there was something that came up where he had to actually do that. But by and large, I can say from my experience and from people that I work with all the time now, I work with over 250 pharmaceutical companies that we help them achieve their goals within medical affairs or market access and reimbursement and sales. They're really trying to do the right thing. They really mean well. So I think that's really important to know, because I think sometimes the pharma companies get a bad rap. All right, look, if you like this content, be sure to give us a thumbs up. If you have an idea for a topic you want to hear more about related to this topic, comment below. I'll talk to you guys soon.